So, Vasif, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. This interview is part of a broader ICOR project concerning the relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So my first question is, the trilateral agreement has stabilized the situation to a certain extent. Which factors can you identify that could upset the precarious balance?
The trilateral agreement of November 10th of 2020 has generated a very unique chance for sustainable peace in the South Caucasus between Armenia and Azerbaijan. This is a chance that I have consistently wrote in my articles over the last few months, that this is a chance that needs to be seized by everyone who is actually interested in the peace and stability between Armenia and Azerbaijan. But as your question correctly puts it, there are factors that can actually upset this situation, undermine the peace process. I can mention a number of factors that have this potential. One of them is, of course, the potential rise of revanchist forces in Armenia. Most of the people in Armenia, unfortunately, feel themselves somehow humiliated by the result of the 44 days day of war, Second Karabakh War. And some people, some political forces actually call for the revision of the situation, the reconsideration of the trilateral agreement, the results of the war. These revanchist forces, especially those who are actually in the political opposition, they have never openly said that they don't accept the trilateral agreement, because they are aware of the fact that this agreement has also been signed by Russian President Vladimir Putin, and it is not it is not an easy job to challenge the signature of President Putin, especially for those in Armenian opposition. But still, as they consistently give these signals that they want to modernize the army, to get prepared for a new war, to challenge the results of the Second Karabakh War. These are all the threats, dangers to the efforts of peace, for peace and stability between Armenia and Azerbaijan. But this is not the only one. This is not the only factor that can upset the situation, unfortunately. At the same time, the people in Armenian government, they also refuse to acknowledge the post-war realities. And one of them is especially regarding the deployment of Armenian military forces to the Karabakh region that is currently under the control of Russian peacekeepers. Over the last few weeks, we have received consistent reports from Armenia that people, mothers, fathers, they protest against the government's decision to send Armenian conscripts to the Karabakh region. They don't want their sons to do their military service in the Karabakh region. But the fact that Armenia deploys its military forces in the Karabakh region, and by the way, they send it in disguised forms, because Lachin corridor between Armenia and Azerbaijan, it is currently under the control of Russian peacekeepers, and they are supposed to prevent the deployment any military equipment of military personnel to the Karabakh region from Armenia. But still, we receive reports that Armenian military servicemen are being sent to the region. That's also one of the factors that, plant seeds for future escalations between Armenia and Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan has consistently demanded the withdrawal of Armenian forces from the region, and the trilateral agreement actually ensured that these forces are going to be retreated, withdrawn from the region. But we now received reports reaffirming the opposite. Another factor that could upset the balance is the potential failure of the transportation projects, the opening of transportation links between Armenia and Azerbaijan. It was presented by the 9th article of the trilateral agreement. It was a very strong initiative for eventual peace and stability, because if we want to have peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan, we have to open borders, we have to open the communication channels between the two people, between two countries, and we have to promote somehow economic interdependence, economic relations. From the perspective of international relations theories, economic interdependence can serve a strong deterrent to future escalations, conflicts. And we have to use this trilateral agreement for this purpose as well, in order to have complete end to the conflict, to the enmity between Armenia and Azerbaijan.
I see. So since you're talking about a complete end to the conflict, are you aware of any precise initiatives like plans or considerations from the Azerbaijan side to make the military victory permanent?
Azerbaijan government, President Aliyev himself has repeatedly declared that Azerbaijan considers the Armenian-Azerbaijan conflict as resolved. President Aliyev said on several occasions that there is no Nagorno-Karabakh conflict anymore. We have to stop talking about the conflict. We have to start talking about the peace initiatives, reconciliation. But unfortunately, from the Armenian side, we received the complete opposite, saying that no, Nagorno-Karabakh conflict is not resolved. There are still problems that need to be handled. This of course makes Azerbaijan also to get prepared for new escalations. But regarding your question, I would like to say that currently Azerbaijan is focused on the rebuilding of these liberated territories, because probably you have seen from the reports in the internet, on social media, that these regions have been entirely destroyed over the last 3 decades under Armenian control. And we have to make a lot of investments in order to bring normal life to this region. And we believe that if we achieve this, it will be also a strong move in order to cement the victory, Azerbaijan's victory in the Second Karabakh War. If we want to make this victory sustainable, we have to reestablish normal life in this region. We have to return all these 700,000 people back to their homes. And by the way, I am also one of these people, a former IDP. I was born in Kelbecer region in 1989, but unfortunately when I was 4 years old, our village was occupied by Armenia. Now we see reports, we see video recordings. It is very devastating, very touching to see your home, your village destroyed. Nothing remains here. And if we want to cement our victory, to make it sustainable, we have to reestablish this normal life in the region. And Azerbaijan government has actually started doing it. We have allocated around 2 billion manats, more than $1 billion, to the reconstruction efforts this year, and it will continue because it is a process that will be very expensive for our country.
I understand. And in the wake of this rebuilding and returning back to normality, is there any possibility of contact to Armenian NGOs?
We are in favor of reconciliation. Our government has already started some initiatives with the purpose of reconciliation and also reintegration. And in this context, I think that the contacts between Armenian and Azerbaijani civil societies is very important. But we haven't seen such contacts over the last few months since the Second Karabakh War. But I think it is something that absolutely necessary. We have to establish people-to-people contacts, but in order to make it really productive and helpful, there is a necessity for the government to support these reconciliation efforts. Over the last few years, there have been such initiatives promoted by international organizations, but unfortunately, the fact that the occupation sustained, there was no peaceful move from the Armenian side to make some breakthrough in the negotiation process, undermined also this track to diplomacy. It didn't give any, it didn't yield any result. But from now on, I think that it will have a great potential, especially in order to promote the reconciliation efforts, and I think it will be possible.
Speaking of reconciliation, what is your opinion on the exchange of prisoners of war?
The exchange of prisoners of war was one of the articles of trilateral agreement, and it was completely implemented, I would say. The people, the military servicemen that were detained during the war, they are called prisoners of war. And Azerbaijan and Armenia exchanged these servicemen, these prisoners of war. But the people, the Armenian military servicemen who were detained after the war, they are not prisoners of war because there was no war anymore. You know, it happened after the war, and they organized some sabotage operations, terrorist operations into the territories under the control of Azerbaijan, killing our military servicemen and also civilians. And that's why they were accordingly detained, and they are not prisoners of war. And we have to differentiate these two groups of people. And I know that currently there are negotiations between the sides about the fate of these people, and but I am not aware of the content of these negotiations at the moment.
I understand. And to go back to Armenian civil society, to what extent are the rights of the Armenian population in Nagorno-Karabakh observed?
You know, when we are talking about the rights of Armenian population, we should take into account that this is not the only people living in this region. There have been Armenians and Azerbaijanis living in peace in Nagorno-Karabakh, former Nagorno-Karabakh Oblast, and also some of the surrounding territories. But usually when we talk about these people, some organizations focus primarily on the fate of Armenian population. But we have to also take into account that there are more than 700,000 people who have been expelled from their homes, including me, my family, my relatives. We lost some of our relatives when we had to leave our homes. But during the over the last 3 decades, no one from the Armenian side talked about our rights, our homes that were destroyed during the war. No one from the Armenian side talked about compensation, that we had lost everything we had. Personally, me and my family, we lived more than 20 years in a makeshift shelter. We didn't have a proper house. Armenian government forced us to live in poverty over the last 3 decades. But unfortunately, this issue was not properly discussed by the Armenian side. But Azerbaijan has consistently declared that these people living in Nagorno-Karabakh region, Armenian people, they are also our citizens. We are ready to provide all the rights that any other Azerbaijani citizen enjoys to the Armenian population as well. And we have reiterated this position during the war and after the war. And I have to mention that Azerbaijan has also started the reintegration initiatives. We are currently discussing how to reintegrate Armenian people living in the Karabakh region, how to restore the peaceful coexistence. And I think that when we restore this peaceful coexistence, Armenians will live as any other Azerbaijani citizen. They will have all the rights that Azerbaijani constitution grants to its citizens.
I see. And so what is the, let's call it, roadmap for the next couple of months? Since you talked about like, how can this peaceful coexistence be reinstated?
Currently the Armenia and Azerbaijani governments, mediated by the Russian government, discussing the 9th article of the trilateral agreement. It is about the opening of transportation links. They, as probably you know, the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan met in Moscow in January with the mediation of Russian president. The sides are currently discussing how to reestablish these transportation and communication links between the two sides, and also Azerbaijan is going to have a land connection between its proper Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic. So for the next several months, the sides, in my opinion, are going to focus on this issue, reestablishment of transportation channels. It is also a very expensive process. It requires huge amount of financial resources to reestablish all these roads and railways that have been destroyed over the last 3 decades. And also from the Azerbaijani side, I expect also more efforts towards reconciliation and reintegration. And this is not a one-way process. It is a two-way process. Reconciliation needs also to be reciprocated by the Armenian side. Otherwise, you cannot achieve reconciliation if the opposite side refuses to join it. And if the Armenian side responds properly, I think that in the next few months we will also see more efforts towards reconciliation.
I see. You mentioned President Putin. How do you evaluate Russia's and Turkey's involvement in the, since I'm not going to call it conflict, this diplomatic situation?
Russia is a member of Minsk Group co-chairing body. It is an international institution that was mandated to coordinate peace negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And I would say that over the last few years, Russia performed a much more active role than the other two co-chairing countries, France and the United States. With the mediation of Russia, Armenian and Azerbaijani leaders met several times before the Second Karabakh War, and even some documents were adopted through Russia's mediation, including Kazan document, Lavrov plan. All these initiatives actually were very important to get some breakthrough in the negotiation process. But unfortunately, neither Russia nor another co-chairing country of the Minsk Group pushed Armenia to the implementation of these documents that have been adopted in the negotiation process. But during the war and also after the war, we saw Russian leaders reiterating the statement that Nagorno-Karabakh and surrounding districts are part of Azerbaijan's internationally recognized territories. This was very important statement, and this allowed Russia to continue its mediating role in the conflict and during the war, and Russia managed to push sides for a ceasefire on 10th of November that put an end to the Second Karabakh War. And after the war, Russia, Russia took part and also led the peace process after the war. As I previously mentioned, this was President Putin's initiative that Armenian and Azerbaijan leaders met in January in Moscow. And Russia supports this opening of transportation channels because it is also in the interest of Russia to have stable communication transportation links with Turkey and Iran. And I would add that this end of the Second Karabakh War was also somehow a move towards the reinforcement of Russia's influence in the region. Russia deployed its peacekeepers to the Karabakh region. And it was somehow a success for the Russian side, and because currently they are the leading mediator of the post-war, post-conflict negotiation process. But regarding Turkey, it is a bit more different because Turkey also was a member of Minsk group, but it was not a co-chairing country, and that's why it actually played no role in the negotiation process as a mediator. But Turkey is a strategic ally of Azerbaijan. There are brotherly relations between Turkey and Azerbaijan. Turkish support was, I would say, decisive in Azerbaijan's victory in the Second Karabakh War. But after the war, Turkey also, like I would say, in a similar way to Russia, Turkey also supports the post-conflict peace efforts, opening of transportation and communication channels, and also Turkey joined Azerbaijan's call for the establishment of 6-state regional cooperation platform. This is a cooperation platform that includes not only Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, but also Iran, Russia, and Turkey. And Turkey supports this initiative, and we will see if it gets successful or not. But it is important that Turkey currently is a force for peace in the region. And Turkish government has also stated that they are also ready to open borders with Armenia. This is also something towards reconciliation, towards peace in the South Caucasus.
I see. Thank you so much. Is there anything you would like to
add? Thank you very much for this opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.